On day 16, we'll go see the Blank Park Zoo in Des Moines and then drive to Clear Lake where we'll see the Surf Ballroom, then go to the Buddy Holly crash site before heading to Minneapolis for the night. We'll cover this area of our trip. It's going to be a pretty but hot day at the zoo. This is a fairly small zoo, so we're going to go look at it and then drive to Minneapolis for the night. As was said, this is a fairly small zoo, and we'll get through by noon and head on to see other things. Let's get started.
I say good evening, Camry! All right. Do we have any scores out there tonight? I said scores, madam. All you ladies, give me a big ooh. Now the men. We have some camp men here in Camberley. On the banks of the river, still running baby, young and you brave. And on the other side of the river, stood his lovely, and you made a little white dove. What's her name? Such a lovely sight to see. But their tribes fought with each other for a love that could never be. A little white dove will face the sky. Run the bear, a little white dove will love that night. They couldn't swim the raging river, 'cause the river was too wide. He couldn't reach his little white dove, waiting on the other side. In the moonlight, he could see her blowing kisses across the wave. Her little heart was beating faster for a long day. A little white dove with love in the sky. From the bed, a little white dove with love that couldn't die. Dove in the water, little white dove did the same. As they swam toward each other through the swirling stream they came. As their hands touched and their lips met, the raging river pulled them down. But now they'll always be together in a happy underground. A little white dove with love in the sky. From the bed, a little white dove with love that couldn't die. He's a bucket.
yes, I love you, Peggy Sue. I love you, Peggy Sue. With my love so very true. Oh, Peggy, my Peggy Sue. Well, I love you, gal. I want you, Peggy Sue. Oh, well, I love you, gal, and I want you, Peggy Sue.
Baby, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down, wiggling the walk and a giggling the talk.
Now it's time to leave for Clear Lake, Iowa, where we'll go visit the surf ballroom.
So funny, make me spend my money, make me feel real loose like a long neck goose, like a girl. Oh, baby, that's the one I like. What's that, baby? But, oh, honey. But, oh, baby, you know what I like.
Along the way through Iowa, we'll see that there's corn everywhere as far as you can see.
Hanging down, a wiggle in a walk and a giggle in a talk. Lord, make the world go round, round, round.
There also must be a lot of wind because there are a lot of wind turbines in the area too.
Like a long neck goose or like a girl. Oh, baby, that's the one I like. What's that, honey? Pick you up at 8. And don't be late.
And now we're entering Clear Lake. This probably wouldn't be a very important city except for the fact of what happened at the Surf Ballroom in 1959.
Oh, all right, honey, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face, ponytail hanging down, a wiggle in the walk and a giggle in the talk. Lord, made the world go round. There ain't nobody in the world like a big-eyed girl to make me act so funny.
And now we have arrived at the Surf Ballroom. This is where Winter Jam was going on with Richie Valens, Buddy Holly, Big Bopper, and others. They'd been on a long tour, and we're going to take this tour through the ballroom. We're going to go over and look at the stage and then go look at the green room before heading over to the memorial.
White lightning stood a Mountain Dew. I took one sip and then I knew as my eyes pulled down and my face turned blue. Body please and my pappy's going squealing.
They continue to have winter dance parties even now here to remember that one dance party they had.
Why, lightning!
The dance party they had in the winter of 1959 ended in the death of several of the people playing, and they've had many people play here since then. Let's walk on into the ballroom itself.
Searching for the place where I made his brew. They were looking, trying to book him with my pappy kept cooking. Yeah, why, lightning.
These are the three artists that died in the wreck. And here's the green room.
Why, lightning.
This is the phone that they used to call their families before they left. And now let's go out and look at the memorial site and listen to the narration.
Born Charles Hardin Holly in Lubbock, Texas, Buddy Holly was a rock pioneer who has influenced such musical icons as Bob Dylan, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Elvis Costello. Holly formed the Crickets in Lubbock, Texas, and later opened for a young Elvis Presley before the Crickets hit big with their #1 single, That'll Be the Day, in 1957.
That'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be the day when you make me cry and say you're gonna leave. You know it's not come on. That'll be the day when I keep
Holly played rock and roll for only 2 short years, but the wealth of material he and the Crickets recorded in that time made a major and lasting impact on popular music. Holly was an innovator who wrote his own material and was among the first to exploit such advanced studio techniques as double tracking. He and the Crickets pioneered and popularized the now standard rock band lineup of 2 guitars, bass, and drums. In his final months, he even began experimenting with orchestration. Holly and the Crickets' catalog of songs includes such standards of the rock and roll canon as Rave On, Peggy Sue, That'll Be the Day, Oh Boy, and Maybe Baby. Between August 1957 and August 1958, Holly and the Crickets charted 7 top 40 singles. In 1958, Holly met and married Maria Elena Santiago and moved to New York, planning the future of his new family and career. Producing up-and-coming artists and opening a recording studio, along with collaborating with other innovative artists of the day, were not only dreams, but goals he was determined to accomplish. Holly was a style innovator, bringing the sophistication of his sound into his look. Pairing these together, he cut an engaging, charismatic figure with his trademark horn-rimmed glasses and vocal hiccup. His creative self-reliance and energetic, inspired craftsmanship prefigured the coming wave of rock and rollers in the 60s and has touched and influenced rock and roll artists in every decade since.
Oh, the little things you say and do make me want to be with you. Rave on, it's crazy, baby. I know it's got me leaving when you say I love you. Rave on, oh, Donna.
I'm trying to record.
Oh, Donna.
Richie Valens was born Richard Stephen Valenzuela in Los Angeles, California suburb of Tacoma. He grew up surrounded by Mexican music, but he also intently lifted an ear to R&B vocal groups like the Crows, the Penguins, and the Drifters. Valens learned how to play guitar and joined a local dance band, the Silhouettes, at the young age of 16. In May of 1958, Richie auditioned for Delphi label owner Bob Keane, who spotted his raw talent. Under Keane's direction, Valens cut a few sessions at Gold Star Studios in Los Angeles. His debut single, Come On Let's Go, was a spirited rocker that barely missed the top 40. Valens' second session produced Donna, which was rush released as a single after a DJ played an acetate of Donna on KFWB, Los Angeles' biggest station. Also recorded in Valens' second recording session was La Bamba. La Bamba was a popular huapango, a Mexican fiesta dance song that he learned from his cousin. The song's driving simplicity foreshadowed garage rock, frat rock, and punk rock. Valens put a rock and roll spin on this spirited folk tune, juicing it up with garage rock riffing and raw, enthusiastic solo. In essence, he invented Latino rock with his 2-minute rock and roll classic. Ironically, La Bamba was a B-side of Donna, a paean to Valens' girlfriend that rose to number 2 on Billboard's single chart. La Bamba also charted, peaking at number 22. Though Donna made Valens a star, it was La Bamba that would become most closely identified with this young Mexican-American rocker. The budding star was on a fast track, and in the course of his short life, Valens left behind a small but influential body of work. As one of the first Latino rockers, Valens has notably influenced such artists as Los Lobos, the Beach Boys, and Los Lonely Boys.
Well, come on, let's go, little darling. And tell me that you never leave me. Come on, let's go,
next one, and then I'll be through.
In North Carolina, way back in the hills, lived my pappy, and he had him still. He brewed white lightning till the sun went down, and then he fit in the jug, pass it around.
The Big Bopper was born Giles Perry Richardson Jr. in Sabine Pass, Texas, on October 24, 1930. JP, or Jape, as he became known to family and friends, graduated at Beaumont High School in 1949. After high school, Jape went on to college in Beaumont, where he found a job at a radio station. In 1952, he married Adrienne Joy Fryon and had a daughter, Deborah. By 1957, after a stint in the military, Jape resumed his job as a DJ for KTRM, where he coined the name The Big Bopper. Richardson had seen kids around doing a dance called the bop, and from this, he named himself The Big Bopper. In May of 1957, he stayed on the air for 6 days straight, spinning 1,821 records and established a world record for continuous broadcasting by 8 minutes. In 1957, Bopper recorded Chantilly Lace.
Hello, baby. Yeah, this is the Big Bopper speaking. Oh, you sweet thing. Do I want? Will I want? Oh, what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging.
Now considered a rockabilly classic, the song became a hit, reaching number 6 on the pop chart and stayed on the charts for 25 weeks. Richardson was also a gifted songwriter, penning White Lightning, which became George Jones' first number 1 country hit, and Johnny Preston's Running Bear, which also climbed to number 1. In his brief career, Bopper composed over 20 songs, each with a novel flair, including It's the Truth, Ruth, and Purple People Eater Meets the Witch Doctor. On stage, the Bopper's big voice and exuberant personality characterized him as a rock star. He liked to dress in bold suits and use props, often holding a telephone receiver in his hand while performing Chantilly Lace. The Big Bopper was also an innovator by his own right. He is credited with coining the term music video in 1959 and recorded videos for his songs. Bopper saw the future in this technology and had plans to start producing videos on television and creating a specially designed jukebox that could play music videos. Throughout '58, Jape signed on to many tours to promote his Chantilly Lace, working into his schedule the Winter Dance Party Tour. While he was on this tour, his wife, Adrienne, was pregnant with their second child, J.P. Richardson Jr., which would be born 84 days after his father's untimely death on February 2nd, 1959.
Slam, you walked away, his arm around you, I heard you say, I never loved them, I look at you, the Lord just play, easy blue.
Now it's time to head out to the crash site. It's a little bit of ways outside town. See the crash site, you just pull off the side of the road. That night on February the 3rd, they left Mason City Airport and flew northward to their next destination. But they didn't make it very far. They crashed in a field about a half a mile from a road, and you have to walk that half mile out and back to a cornfield. This is what the crash site looked like shortly after it was found. A memorial was set up at that site, and the farmer continues to let people walk back with a marking of the big glasses. It's a long, hot walk. After about a half a mile, you come to the memorial site. And way down there, that tall thing is the power pole on the road. You gotta walk that far. Roger Peterson was the pilot that Buddy Holly had rented a plane for him and his band, which consisted of Tiny Alseft and Waylon Jennings, but Tommy gave up his seat to Richie Valens and Waylon Jennings to the Big Bopper, and so they died as they were flying. And now it's time to walk back to the road, about a half a mile. The glasses are a little bit big for Deborah. And now we head on to Minneapolis. The wreck is very near the Iowa-Missouri border, and so soon we're in Missouri. As we drive into Minneapolis, we run into a traffic jam. But finally we get to our hotel for the night and check in, ending day 16.